Ik ja yochtini, ja yaki, likat wuhan. Has du data we you tacha tanknuch, ja, hatlagu kwankian, sheet cook wush knachas with the art. Wegao, kingisti, has du yejineet a tir was a tea. Wusti. A owe, a has wuti. A data way, what you has watan. Wasa at wuni. Wega has ausaku kunach away. One hajinach yashanalsis. Ya hakusi kahayukatang. A joe wushkanachas with the art you sheet cook. Mr. Anika sheet kakwan. Dech kunachoe has to yukatangi. At kaktusa ach. Kichnáalx. Kakal at. A joe sheet cook a has wuti. Well, sheet ka at lechi. Has our lech. Yeg uti. Wegao. Gwell dagún jin cat cha dagún takshu a híchan. We yig uti cha wits ach tin at leich. Cha you kuneg. Just ku ig kach aya yawuhi. Has du tuas a gu cho gagi hasu at ya hatlil ko has. A joy yig uti a wewuhi. A itcha konach has du tuas a gu a dadu watani. Wasa et kakwane. Ya has du yuk atangi tin. Has du tuas a gu. Uchiach ku de dal awe. Has awsla yech. Wegao konach. Has du tuwu nig gwalki we. Ye awe. Gwalki has a waji. Kalli gach glaq. Ya hu yuk atangi kahakosti. Ach awe. Tach konach. Atchsati at. Has du geit gach tu sa achi. Has du chayach jetune. Ya yedat. Ju ya. A yach. Yuch atul atk. Ya yedat. Has aya. Ade awe. Has hashakawa jai. Has du tuwa sa gukonach. Ya ha yuch atangi tin. Ye kutus ti. Ye awe. Katu ak. Ya yedat. Adra has tu yuch atangi. At gachtu sa ach. Ye itcha wuchin yuch gachtu sa at adat. Ya kone ya kwikich ya yedat. Atlen gunil chish. So, yeah,
Thank you.
Yes.
It's always customary by Indian tradition that the songs that are sung are very sacred to our people. And these young people are learning the Indian culture and they know what it means. Therefore, it's not a plaything for them because they're learning the history and it means a lot to them, both well through exercise and as well as expressing the words. And some of the songs are very sad to them after they learned the tradition. And so it's only customary that the opposite tribe would answer to their song. So I've been requested that two of the elders are being delegated to respond. And one is George Davis, and the other one will be Charlie Jim. Thank you. George?
Please,
S'eek away. The cow you do with the hut. You must hungry. Tell what you want to see it happens. Yes, yes. You go away. Kaya shooting. Happens to you, I think it's the year. I think it's S'eek going just to fight for S'eek. You are your yeah, was that shit? Yeah, you can't those. You know, yeah, what can't those? Dísi cool. Yeah, connect yeah, now. Yeah, the things in our house. Yeah, there's it over there. Watching those. So yeah, what out of the town. Yes, S'eek. Yes, the pushy. This is your town, yeah. Ja, dat gaat ja, has awtseix. Aku wate akotsite. Kotlit kwai awtseix awtseix. Keewaax doshi kandeun kaati. You ashakun kotsite.
Kunasti sewa.
Ajawe Keewaax pasti. Keewaax pasti tak nakaskopati. Ja, dat you got you this party. You were a shakun kotseke.
Kunasti sewa.
Ajawe Keewaax pasti. Keewaax pasti tak nakaskopati. Ja, dat you got you this party. Ja, tut das Kowatia. Hartling gets a tea away. Kahesh Paschin, Akusti,
Kunasti sewa.
Hatik away. A Kaya Hajanus. Yak, Hartling gets a tea. Na sewa the Akan to Tapwe Hajinak. Away show away to Flashet. Away yai that the Wetlak. Achtu. Chakautika. Yes, see, last gets a dana hutahane. Hanga talk out the garden. Yak, Hatsish was. Is Jenay. Adaktishi, Hang cow, street of the she. Has to eat, has to chinky or shadi. Akatesh could cake for he casting gets a tea. She yes, in a nico away. Over as a pati. A kata was a patu. The chargo to what hit. Heartlet cars a tea, Hunkic, Harting gets a tea. Where carters a question. What was you, Nanaje away? Gonna teach her. Dana has a danake. Yakoste, Harting gets a tea. There's two for her day. The Pasakshi, Wega. Ya to your cake. Kichnáalx awtseix.
We do shukwa ai.
Awtseix. Ik had dat de Gsmåokʼ zitten. Nou, wat de Ruski taal is gezeten, S'eek. Ik doe kakon taal. Ik doe wat je kan neten. Ik doe Ḳeiḳóokʼ. Kakon zit, kakon taal, die Ṭeek'óok'an gaat zitten. Ik kon naar Ṭuutz'aare, Kichnáalx awtseix. Het is koud. Ushaka, had the Wasa, Yakish case, has to on me. The cadet, you had coasted tea. Yakosti, at Koahaya, that hasn't got in get costi. A cock had go to a 10. A yashi. I said, yeah, that's a Ḳeiḳóokʼ, get on, take a go. At Koaha, catch. Als je dit ham, ach dat is ach, Ħajtik, dak bisaat, dikaka samni. Jek keki xi jesċe. Ja ixa sari, jek. Issa dekaw jekuħti aħija.
Ħawasa kulla ċis ħawa.
Jukjat istant. Ħajja ħasis, kajġak, għanna u istin iċċat. Ħajja tzaq ta' xije. Għanna u istin jesċat.
Kulla ċis ħawa.
Ħasis kħas, ħastut uwu. Ja, tanakha. Suwa, kakasuwate, jahat fotowatinniya. Ayya itat, yatat ke, takwasat uksike, akustiye, kut Tóokʼ, yatat hakshik, yusanniye kakishkes,
Ħawasa.
kulla ċish,
Kulla ċis ħawa.
Ħaat.
Kulla
Ida
ċis.
kunek qaat, jatkin.
Okay. Ħeiḳóokʼ.
Lakutsi, itnak gunegwaat.
Ah,
It's such a lovely compliment.
Away. Then we get the Ḳeiḳóokʼ,
Ħawasa.
S'eek, ja, Dave.
Good again.
Away. Then we get the Ḳeiḳóokʼ,
Ħawasa.
S'eek, ja, Dave. Ja, Genitane.
Ḥeiḳóokʼ llythe. Good again. Yeah, there you go.
Away. Then we get the Ḳeiḳóokʼ,
Ħawasa.
S'eek, ja, Dave. Ja, Genitane. Away. Goed, awtseix. Kichnáalx. Away, the Tóokʼ siku, yak Keewaax. Ayak awasang, ni take the Tóokʼ kuchanich te wasache. The Tóokʼ is like was abechayakai. Awahikete. Kanu to wasa. Yashawat. Muttechi uwakaan. Ja, kuna ċiċi ja, isewdu waħija.
Kulla ċis.
Yeah, do it.
I'm Ďák from Heidelberg. I'm a Haida, and I into your. They say they forget.
Tóokʼ seguun sautut lahige. Yai, ate. Yeji ni. S'eek uwakaan yoqotangiu de kwatik. Yai dat yai hastuik satu ya diatke. Taktehi kate katagu kuke. Away. Achon khohasawe. Kotsite. Yai. Hen sikesate. Away ya wasat ya saf. Nachisite away. Hastu posida kakpaku. Keesu tiika.
Keewaax.
Keesu tiika. Ja, des tweede satouye. En
Dat
dat
zie
is
ik zo, hè.
een touwe. Hastu kok. Keesend. Hastu parak uitleggen.
Ja,
Ja, heen zitten. Keesend je aandacht. Tóokʼ seku. Yucatan kersen is de cheese ja hon poas. Jewe. Tjene tooskuts. Tjene gaat. Kade hoshi. Ate jechi en in the end time, it's got to be finished. Yeah, we can cut it out. There's no shortcutting it. We got to finish it. So today, and we got some more speakers in here. Two, S'eek. Dagoon sa ja dagoon dit wordt Sakshima Kala kauchi kada sakti katso ede shita katsati kiskata ishas yes kaya khanuchen at katikek ishas ane Haa S'eek, ja, dat kun je nog komen daar te gaan. Hartelijk het die awtseix, kashagoon en a kunik, juist katlik nu in haar kakas. Hartelijk was. Jij dat ja gaan gewoon Kichnáalx. De piek away de wassa. Je zit daar eerst in de nuuk. Yes. Aka is aka. Kijk ze de toch kakjaagig de sa yes. Ach kijk je. Ja. Hien jeusen. Itawe. Kokastiawe. Gadadoa hoog. Hadisano hakik. Akawe yukatank. Jezus niawe, hoe je jaarde, jezus, kerst kade de kade kussa, kara het katsateren in je kaset Kichnáalx, akawe de zika hun, na de tjede zakti tiasa, juawe, jan gade zika, akshakoon, adi zika zikje, achtanach. Woeske taan dat gaan gaan de city. Ja, naar huis ouwe. Ach die. Gaat je ook dat gaan 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 city. Ach ga je na. Dat gaat je iets na kawas.
Perkins. FaceTime.
Is dat goed? Is je de wassa. Is taan. We tjutska dat gaan gaan de city. Je kan daar de gaan. Kakat kusti, de, kane, hadlat, Ḳeiḳóokʼ Dísi te, Ḳeiḳóokʼ Dísi te, Keewaax, S'eek, kane hayat, anachut, hayada, angun. Deze taan jatke. Sanakatsa.
Unneet. Eshitaan hadi kutsette. Ayadas kiin. Stuinaana keitä kautta kikiä kavatsajaada siiska. Keekóokʼ siiska. Ja iitä tawe. Jatkaa je. Ja tjatko jeek. Akawa keititustsuuda ja ainaade. Haaslinkitsa tiiä. Okei tiikaa. Ahtanda taane okei tiutitsak. Jeeset iitakawe. Onkoos asti jeeke. Kuhka jeek. Kertekka jeek. Ja iitä ahtanda taane te aanuttinasaskat. Ja kaana. Ahtanda taane oeete. Katso jätaaktaa. Tukasiituakte oota kuuteeda saatanda taaneeti. Sakeetla jo ahtanda taaneeti. Atawe ahtanda taaneeti. Uhkeu tiikaa. Ahti dawa heida teetkuu. Oja ajada chakpaslakaat. Ajada chakpaslakaat uhkeu tiikaa. Sinkit haasta tiiyi. Awuja wadanne ayat wakhish ya itat ya ka katsuya het ya itu khnaya het shitka khanqas het teshu het yes het okeka tika ya atukta shaqi ya khawti khudio khayla khati naqsati ja kaana oestuukaa hattitsi. Stuukaa hattitsi. Sikaa keikattavaa teosaahtin. Konkoos keite. Kiskaatiin uutskikeen kasutsitsi. Jaadak joka haatankie. Joka teisy hetiitä. Hatsas. Se keita se teade tuukin ja kaana. Se joutehaa. Astutas hankijan. Daakava estiuanne esitaan. Ajajata ja konkoksete kaavitsan. Valtasamalla katakettike kalkainestuukaakustati. Taadaksai asta tiikohas asta taa eetiuanne. Jiisi kuja kon. Samu diitaasen eitä saakon. Jes naavu. Tuittava kokseti. No taadaksai awtseix. S'eek katsati. Ja teisy hetiitä. Ja kaana aue. Ajus kasta tankin. Ja ajus kiitjaan. Atjoja iidat stuukaa de tiikuts nuo. Stuukaa de tiikuts nuo. Ahtuja kee. Tsujatkaa aue. Haaslinkitsati jatkuu. Jatka. Vaatiakaa se on sinkitut kahta iken. Ataat joka tankiuhki. Vaanka niissä on katkenna. Akaa nauut. Aatasaksi eekatus sinne. Vaanka niissä entisteet hei kaane aua. Ittats kannaua. Ja kaanaa jatkaa vaahtuukaa tsokattiti. Kunnas siis saada neikä. Joo tassiti. Aha. Sitten attain kajaati sitten. Kakastuu niikka. Kutsuta tänne. Tähädaadi jätti. Ja. Kinta S'uunáagu kohte. Ajee jos tykaa kattiti. Kunnas siis. Aha.
Ehkä teinet hassako. Atiakhat ne ḳeiḳóokʼ kawe tuyukatangi. Panakawe wo Ḳeiḳóokʼ. Ya takakhoak ya tatin. Aqa ukhki usni. Aqa awe yatulaani qa ya akh. Qahati kakhawe kautikol. Kunchi shakhutsi we atcha. Kakhwasai. Khatlakhik.
Tiakovi se kosia. Rakkauna hatkieni. Kautohtisa. يايتتوي أكاهاجو لسق يخشوتو لتاقي هاسن جتخسطيه تاق هاجي قاطين يا مفتتيوي يسير لاسكي أنا خاطسي ونق قاكسل تكتشون سيوتان قاطي هاجي تخونا تقتي هاسيش كوساتق يقاي أجوا قيدا كنتشيتوي جيو تنيك أو تعشوتي كواس يتقواو ها تو يتين ده تكيات أو يوشتو قشكن أو تياك قيدا خاخت يا يقطنك يا يتقصتيك يا يتتاك تشكو يقخاتن كيا يخليشكو يتقنيخ كيكوك هو يقطنك يقخسنه تشكاخو قد قاصت قاطع خدنا تقي تدخل تشوفانا والسيدة قوسوة تستيا أنا قصانة شاققاق يا دقينة يختار ليك قاسسته يشيد كاغونتان أجيا تلقت كوشاخ جيوته أخليش كوهس خانس أخليش كوهس يقوك دي خسوقية شانت كتيت يتك أجيا يا إيدت أخنق السؤال ويا يا طاق الشخاطة خاختويته يا أخيشس أوسيسه يتلوك خيك تيسا وقتوا أشكت أنك فتينه شيتهينا يتودك سيختقها يشيتك أجوا أختواسكو أيا خنيك أخليك يا وتليخن أتود أوتليخن يقوش خيك أقا يقوخك قيا أتدك قشينا يو خاق خنقش كخيشك أقوش يقوش أيتي قيت كيك أقوتنا وتقيت كيك قد قائتا وكي ويكش يوقتكو آخا كيشك نستطيخ نتيج يوقت ستيدت يا إيدت يا وش كان خطوطات يا قوش كيك يا قصتيخ يا خاتس قصانة أخصاني هس يا هاتشقن قصانة أخكي أوتيقة شتودا كتوتسئ يا يك أتختوتيخ أجوا أخكي أوتيقة يا يك خشيقة تصطيخ هستخوت خوكينا كت يقوش كيكش هستو جنهاي هستخوت أخكينا كت أخكي أوتيقة خيانيش كنا كيدو نقشي دينا كيكو تشي يك spirit. There's a spirit song. And up and pipe on that side. You have to stand up and hold your hands up. You yek. Ata kut ken tuki kaya hakus tiya chayita tatayo kahatanik. Shayat hena taya tuna kawa hakus tiya. Uutishana tuunakawa, ha? Uutiawatana tuunakawa, ha? Tausea nakikitat. Hayaunea ja Tóok'ine. Tsuyateko, stakatuhana ja saasateko. Ja hadatsan kesane. Kusakan. Ja datsuunaksate. Ja datsuunyukatan. Kaasin kitsatie. Kutkenakishe. Teet kaatuutusit. Atusitua. Saakee ahtia. Ja kauyukahatanke. Tam. Ja tuoksasta shantuukajitat. Täs kaadassa kaakkossa haija. Koos täs osaake ahti. Katsu jähadnatyyt. Se tsiaat koko hen. Jujuskassa atkanukun. Je ovat ohtun jaksanto. Vasakunuksu je ovat ohtun jaksanto. Ja tatkunas siis juita ja kaka. Ja isasaaje. Iqeeta huaake. Kaayiktuna kiikaa. Aksiiskuttu jeeke joksihan. Kajahastuna tekaatina. Jahti seututini katkukuu. Avajat sahaatan ja syhti kuu. Ajat sahaatan. Aksiiskuhast. Atuutahnu aade. Ahtiisa neututini. Ahtaa siisku. Ḥeiḳóokʼ. Stakatassa kaakwantaan tatskankajan hassutsitti. Atjoahti seututini vakuut. Jakaavalle. Saatane ja kaaja Ḥeiḳóok'it. Stakat ja haana kotsahkiikas. Kejahunuk. Jiitat. Siiskukee keskaavalle. Atjoa. Tens aatatkat uunakti aakeja. Uunjaaksejiin ja katahtuotti. Ahkaakas. Ahtiikanakassu aattuuskuutas. Ahtiua. Hastusakia titsuhtiua. Siitu saakaa tsuhtiua. Stakati haanjataaki aate. Jia toisahtikas. Uhkea utiika jiukatankitse kaajiktuna ja etat aatessahti nukuja. Kunas siis aatas. Teeta hinna ja jata katentessa kakkati. Hinhokaka ja Keewaax ajutuut. Akaawa. Henhaak. Haakujoissa kaatatua kotutuat. Aksana. Haakuja. Akaawa. Ikhashaata wajanti Ḥeiḳóokʼ. Hateskaawa ajahutti jakka. Ja iyakas enike kakauja. Ja. Jakshaawa. Ja sanne hasaka tassatia. Iko kakhoom. Ja kakkoke. Kunnas siis. Hatussehet. Jo akatkohatani. Ja siis kohastas hatusaa eihuuta. Tässäk taas hateuuk. Ķayeħóokʼ katkoa S'eek tuutqahi finqa. Jitat khassuunaq keekaqtikkas. Shwe.
Ach Wel cejini nachawe wato ach wasa konachawe ya ke hastu yukatangi. Ya atling at ka konachawe ya satk. Ya idat wasa ach tuwasugu haskuusti ya hachu. Shtuqa khatiti hastu yukatangi kadeen awe hasa kawshahit. Aqa gwell dekataqusti kanach. Yada ayashtigach tu. Ya hastu yukatangi. Jo kejini aqa awe ke ʼatulitseen. Ya wanqanins at shuktin yuhas ewatan. Wanqanins qachtin. ye o adatu te chutank. Wasa ushach tuwati ya just has to tuwan chatwati. Ya has to in ayachwanogu. Ya yidatu to suku hoa de hanakaswu a. Ya has to yukatangi to nakho akeka haskach to suku. Ye awe achtunda tani yeti. Grond ehin sawe kuch akachoecho tu. Ya has to yukatangi. Ho acho a chakut at chakunach chakut at. Ye awe. Chu ya hachuch haswuti ya khana. A drech was a good chakonea ya adat yukagachtuka at ya has to yukatangi. Wasa yedach. Cha'an ko has to do litzin. Kone adata we you has kewatan. Ya that we uchke unetika. Uchke utika. Ye awe. Aja we tashasi to ashku. We jinda ha. Kone ha. Ide awaya kanahini. Aja we adata we you has kewatan. Ya kahasa usakutsu. Well, jinkatnach aya akhe wuti. Hasau saku dasa data way you has kewatan. Should the hin ko atlaik. Ya yidatitu adusa. Koneaya at kakosa ach. Ka au saku. Ya has to yukatangi. Ya ajoe adati jagachtuni. Ya hadachkan kisani. Well, hasu hasaguch. Hasaguch sa ach. Eka. Hasaguch saku. Ya ha yukatangi. Wasa ach tuati. Tlitzidain awe hasa kaya achch ya hasti yukatangi. Kwalkiwe ye kwati. Ya uhan di dene jituni. Ya just kejini a kwalye wutu ach. Hashawa hik ya idat kwalkiwe. A joyach tuasagu wujin yukagachtuka aati adat. Gunchish. Kinget kainach shukwa. Akatal ka kainach it wasakwati. De kata sa dusa wutu achi. Kachasakuen. Kachwush gete wutu da aten. Das hast du yukatangi ho ach. Kechne achina hasakawa ni geda. Das kaika dus hasaku dasti ya. Gwalwegao. Da gwal ach kataku yahuti. Gwalgiwe du ish. Echasakut ginsa. Kutzati. Isikuge.
Basti adu ish.
Ah.
Ḥeiḳóokʼ.
1891 ho kutzati. Akawe.
Wow.
Gushukjin katawe du katagu. Gwal ausaku. Kech atlen ga awe uyach. Ho awe wuna 1986 hanaku good. A awe daste ya. $1931. Ach katagu uwaya wega. Gwal kejin jin katawe du katagu. Ausatin. Eka ausatin weta. Aye wutiense. Kechne. Khwayinak. Kingisti. Kahani. Hast du tuat aya. Klingitsch tu tu yang. Aqashtuq khatati tlachonach.
Tóokʼ, Charlie Jim, do S'eek S'eek we celebration video was 1984. Kunach just de seit wasaku adach tlachmas de yuktangi yake well it's the cut house. It's the cut house. Just Mayatiek Slidzi Ada you Kushursuge Adakwa Yatzak Adak we where is it Gusua Keewaax Yayoka S'eek Dísi Chawe wa tus yet Quaach just play the heen Slagoon do ish Yayoka Oxla Gagli tus Canuck Yosika, my dear mother, my Adach Yayoka too. I haven't heard that since I was a little girl. Just yeah, Yukatangi Kunach Yake Yak.
Jeez. Ḥeiḳóokʼ.
I liked Knott's Law lines 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Listen to this. Play tlach cha nich kach awtseix away uwakaan yidach kawadai. And I looked up, I followed up all the words in the dictionary. And the interpretation on the page is, lest your tears fall without honor that flowed from your faces. I think that's really cool.
Oh, what line is that? Let's switch over and we'll start.
It's page 242, Haa Tuwunáagu Yís, Natla, 7 through 10.
Jeez.
I thought it was pretty good the way they made it. Lest your tears fall without honor. And then they followed it up, talking about where the tears flowed from their faces. I thought that was really beautiful language.
Yeah, and I just want to say, like, as we take a break and like start thinking about these things that we've heard, it's almost like we're just standing at the edge of a freeway, and I'm asking you what the license plates were of these cars. It's just it's so wild. It is so much, you're like, okay, I'm ready, and then the fire hose turns on, and so, but it's this is what you got to do. I mean, you got to go sit by the feet of the masters, and you look at this stuff and you might say, I've been doing this for 30 years. And just like one of those speeches just blows me away. But then it shows me like just to be able to do this stuff. And so at your way, because of, that is why, or because of that, it's like you understand them. Or your father's people. That was a lot to unpack. Now I get to, there's already enough to unpack. And so then really, so this niche right here, I believe means nothing, like a void. And so there's a few words that, chanich or chanichkach means for nothing or in vain. Like the way I think of this is like, let's say I spent all day like putting this greenhouse together. And I'm feeling pretty good, and I walk away from it, and then it just collapses and just completely falls down. It's like that would really be chenichkach. You did it for nothing. Like it's in vain, it's for nothing. Nichdach means for free. So you could say nichdach hijidekakwati yata. I'm going to give this to you for free. It took us a long time to get. I've been trying for over a decade to get for free. And luckily someone asked Anya Shahash about it. And so that gave me clues about niche. It's like, I don't think it's the beach. I think it's a second niche. But maybe it's got to be related, because then you get like niche kakawu, which would be the person on nothing. And that's like calling someone a bastard. Niche kateyi, a rock on nothing. And that's some other terminology too. It's someone in a clan who doesn't have a whole lot of voice or authority. And then we get a ton of these ones. So you have Irialis, conjugation prefix, a long high stem, and ah. And that's so it doesn't happen. Keewaax, so it doesn't get out of control, so no one gets hurt. Ja'ade ye'unatiqa, so it doesn't end up that way. And here, so Ḳeiḳóokʼ nichkach awuhiqa ku'a'owe, so it just doesn't end up being for nothing. So wuhich means for something to happen. It's a very like, it needs context to have a whole lot of meaning. Yiwakini yidach kawadayi y'all's tears flowing from your all's faces, right? And so like in terms of like how the language works and what it does for us, like it's so fascinating. There's so much stuff we can unpack with all of this stuff, which is what we should do with these next 20 minutes, is picking spots, looking at them, figuring out what's going on if we can. And then I think you should what I'll do is I've done this before, but they're all in like these little chunks. So every speaker is its own recording. And I know there's one that spoke English, and I'm not trying to diminish what she had to contribute. I know it's a female and it's Haida, and so I don't want to just dismiss, but we are here to listen to Tlingit. And so I will put that speech up as well. So you could just hear, this is all in order that they happen. And there's some that weren't even written down, which is great, but I was like, oh, it's been a few years since I've done this, so I forgot there was those ones. And then I tried to use a mouse and I got really lost on one of the speeches, and then I really messed it up. And then wonderfully, I brought some food, and then I was like it was a little bit okay in here, but it was all fine. It was all fine. Maybe not quite okay, maybe just a little kassier. So other things that you were thinking about, you wanted to look at, it's a lot, and these are huge conceptual things that are flying past us, like gigantic, very important things in Tlingit. And you hear all of them talking with this this is that spiritual way of talking Tlingit. So there are several ways to speak Tlingit, just to talk about generic social sort of settings. Number one, you and I know each other, and it's just you and I. There's a whole lot you could talk about. Like there is no limits. It could be lots of teasing. There could be dirty talk. There could be jokes. There could be all kinds of stuff. And like, it's just like in English, like the two people, they sort of negotiate what that is. And there's lots of people, if they're really close friends, like if someone didn't know you and they walked in and heard you talking like you talk when no one's listening, they might be like, oh, right? And Tlingit, that is also the case. It is a respectful language, absolutely, but sometimes it gets a little bit oversimplified, I guess, where people will say, you can't cuss in Tlingit. It's like, oh, you should have seen what me and Chi Wu were texting about last night there's some really choice insults that are pretty wild. And so it's different, I guess. Like every language has its own ways of dealing with like extreme emotions and teasing and something and anger. But then, so there's two people who are close to each other, and then there's a group of people that all know each other, and that's a little different, right? And so there's a bit more formality to that, and there's also you're a little careful, because if you hurt someone's feelings and they're your clan, they're a different clan, especially if they're the opposite clan, you got big trouble coming your way. Then there's if you don't know, if there's someone there that you don't know, then you have to be very cautious too, because that's what I was taught. Do you know what clan they are? What if you insult them? Now your whole clan has to pay. And then there's standing up and speaking in front of people. So it kind of depends on the context, whether we're leaning into a spiritual realm or just like give the welcome address. But once you stand up and start talking in front of people, now there's a certain pattern that you usually adhere to, acknowledging like kinships and clans, and trying to make sure you catch all the clans that are in the room, those types of things. And then not getting, there's a verb, which is, I think it's a awtseix, for a fish to pull itself off of the hook, or for someone to stand up to give a speech and just go way off. It's like drift way off and lose the point completely. Then there's storytelling. And storytelling, like when we think about what we're listening to this week compared to the stuff from last week, it's very different. It's a bit like the pacing, there's a certain emotion to storytelling that you'll see that these speakers utilize. But then when we get into this, like this is now ceremonial speaking. So this and prayer exist on these same sort of things where it's in a higher register, it's a different sort of cadence. Right? And so you hear them doing that, and it's got this certain, and for some of those ones who really knew how to do it, they go, 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 go. And Nora said they never took notes. They would sit there and listen to someone. And when you watch these speeches, they're replying to each other. And they're like, this thing you were talking about, this thing. And so they're doing all of that stuff without, she would say, you're not supposed to have a piece of paper. You don't write it on your hand, but those are the tips that she gave to us based on what she saw from these folks. So thoughts, reactions, questions.
Do you think, though, that they did think about a little bit of what they were going to say right before? Like, I'm sure they were thinking about things that they wanted to say, and then also like responding in real time to things that other people said.
Yeah, and so you would make a lot of mental notes, like you had to really listen to what someone was saying, because then you would stand up and you would address that, right? And you wouldn't ever want to be caught like not knowing what to say, because you weren't paying attention. And so like the whole thing was a big part of a ceremony. And like this is one of the first times they took that type of thing outside. And this is what Ḳeiḳóokʼ used to be. Like Ḳeiḳóokʼ used to be a lot of this type of stuff. And it sort of transitioned into, maybe that's why there's so much dead time at a Ḳeiḳóokʼ, where like everybody's quiet and you're just like handing stuff out, and we're doing our best, but it's because like there's a void left from these moments.
Kataya.
Hmm.
I was thinking, Ḥeiḳóokʼ ʼatulitseen. I'm blown away. Hastuukatangi Keewaax. Atuadach S'eek. Maya S'eek ʼatulitseen. Hastuukatangi Keewaax. Atuadach Ḥeiḳóokʼ tlachmasa Ḳeiḳóokʼ. It's just so amazing. And I just realized just how much I've lost, I guess. That's why I asked about kinship, because I think to stand up in front of people and to talk like that and to be able to know who everyone is and to address everyone in an honorable way is just so amazing.
Yeah, you got like Nat Claw dropping like 50 names in a speech, and just like,
Mhm.
yeah, I kind of forgot who that person, it's wild.
Natla Akawa she spoke from her heart. It was as though each of those treasures she was talking about, I could almost hear her reflecting on what it's called, who it was, why it's important. So even in just listing what when we analyze it, we say, she was listing the atu on the tables. Oh no, she was doing so much more. At least that's what I heard in her voice.
Yeah, it reminds me of, well, I'll backtrack and address something ʼatulitseen was talking about first, which was like sometimes if you have a wound, like you have to address that wound. And sometimes like if you got hurt and you're like, I'll fix it later, then you got to do a little bit of extra work to clean that thing out and make sure it's healing okay. But when we're talking about like wounds of the spirit, like which is what we're dealing with language loss, fracturing of clans, fracturing of communities, like it's a lot and it's a very scary thing, I think, to engage in that and to feel that sorrow and then to come out of that sorrow. It reminds me of like when we went to Sitka and we were doing all the music stuff and it was such a wonderful event with a lot of energy. And then we brought S'eek Herman up and we talked about Chuck Miller, S'eek, who is my cousin and also is like the person Herman was training to take his place. And then and he was so sad and he's crying and some people were kind of worried. They're like, oh, this is supposed to be like a fun thing. Like, what are we gonna do? But then how he was like up there saying like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't, and he was crying and so upset. But then he started to sort of like he sang the Lord's Prayer and Lingi. And then I knew I knew Fiddler on the Roof was coming because I know him well enough. But then he sang, and then he had a lot of fun. And then like we knew we had to get the show kind of back on. And so I went to get the microphone and he says, act like you're taking it from me. And so we got into this tug of war over the microphone and everybody was laughing and it pulls us out. And to do that in a genuine way is really important and to say like, okay, we got to get down and look at this painful thing. And now we got to sort of come back up. But it's almost like you're riding these waves because you have to have this intention of gaining strength and sort of like getting to a healing place with that, which is why you hear them speaking from the heart and why this whole book is called Haa Tuwunáagu Yís. And so coming back to like these things that they're doing, and every speech act has so many metaphors and so many just outstanding examples of grammar, like that can't verb. It's all over the place. Tlech a day something, yeah. Tlech a day something, yeah. This can't happen. It can't go like this. And so much of that is teaching all of this stuff. And like they're all 90 years old in 1981. And so we know that as they're standing in that room, they're saying, this might be the last time I stand up and talk. This might be the last time I hear that person talk. And just knowing how much was on the line and how much they wanted to turn the canoe in this different direction. It's wild to think about.
So did you say that when you put a underlined GAA after the verb, it means it doesn't verb?
So it doesn't happen. Like, so we learned like you take a hortative and you put the letter T on it, so it will happen, right? So you could say, Haa Tuwunáagu Yís. I came here to eat something, right? I came here so I would eat something. And so we see that one quite a bit in storytellings. Did this so this other thing could happen, right? And so that verb, you take a hortative, you add the T on it, and you've got it. Nach to acht. Let's go. So you could command someone, "Ich chusg itiyech itili, ach nach tu atit." Put your shoes on so we can get out of here, right? And so that's a very useful mode to master. But you have to get the hortative in order to get that one. For this one, it's its own form. And I don't know what to call it. It's the so it won't happen verb. You have irialis, conjugation prefix, long high stem, qa. So you could say ikunikqa, kedain jinida'us. Wash your hands carefully so you don't get sick. And it's so it doesn't happen. And it's a wonderful another mode to use. Like you see him using it in here. And so they were saying, that's why they're saying uhiqa, and that's why they're saying like so it doesn't end up on the beach. You would say put, so put gutqa, I think, so you don't get lost. Because the tricky part with it is if you're going to have the irialis, ga is in front of the irialis, and then you have na, qa, and zero on the other side of the irialis. So ga always comes before the irialis. So you end up with gu, and then with the others, you end up with una or ugh. And so just sort of keeping that thing in mind. And I haven't really done a whole lot of like in the conjugate. It's not in the conjugator, I don't think, because I haven't fully understood that mode yet. But that's the key to it. Irialis, conjugation prefix, long high stem, minus I classifier, long high stem, qa suffix.
It's like just so amazing to hear. Like we have this list, I don't know what it is, 12 or 16 verb modes in Eggleston that we kind of rely on again and again. And it just goes wide open when these people are speaking. And I noticed like a bunch of consecutives too, but it's how they don't always translate it after. It's like when this happened, but it's really what they're saying is after this happened, but it's just like natural. It's just like yeah, so different, uh, yeah, anyway.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of really great learning material that can be made from this. Like this is wonderful. And it's like we've been given all the tools that we really need, like all the tools. But like you could do something from these speeches, which I think we should do is I think you should pick one and over the weekend, like just take a look at it and make sure you understand everything that's in there. Like really get to know it. If there's anything that's unclear, like circle it and let's talk about it. Because yeah, it's the full, like it's what you see. It's like you've learned how to do like all these little karate moves, but everything you do is just like this little thing, and then I do this thing, and then you look at Bruce Lee or something, they're like, oh, it's just going so fast. You're like, there, it's all there, right? And it's so incredible. And so like it's important, I think, when you're doing this type of work to see like you are on a path to get there. Just because you can't do it now doesn't mean you won't be able to do it. And so what you got to do is like climb that hill, climb that mountain, get up to those steep parts and just think about it. And like you could like just straight memorize these and like listen to the recording and try to speak exactly like they do, just so you're getting that cadence, which is so important. Sky do.
Yeah, I was thinking after, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking that like going through this once over again, and there's something that like we always now do is like land acknowledgements, but really in our oratory, it was just building that kinship connection, right? Like there's not really, I don't see, well, I haven't seen it too much of like being like specifically talking about being on the land and acknowledging that. They'll more like tie it to their opposites first, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Or
and
how does that work?
they're not introducing themselves, and they know that there's a thing to talk about. And this is where, like, for a long time, and I think as we started to develop people who were, it took us a long time to start making Tlingit speakers. Like, the reality is, like, they're trying to teach stuff 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, and then something starts to stick. Like, things start to stick, and people start to be able to speak. And everybody was trying their best. Like, it takes something, like someone has to build it off of something. And so one of the things I think that happened is people would stand up and introduce themselves and sit down. And that was the model for learners, like especially in the 90s and the early 2000s, and everybody would clap, you know. And it was great. It was you're on to something. But then, what I started to do is I would look at these speeches. I'm like, well, that's not what they're doing. Like they're saying things. Like, how do we say things? And so they would get up. And so usually if people ask me to do like some sort of land acknowledgement, I will transform it into a chance to say something. And I'll think about what I want to say. So for example, if there was some event here at the university and they say, could you start us off with the land acknowledgement? I would say yes. In my mind, I'd be like, and I'm going to do a couple other things, right? And so I'd say, maybe I'd start off by saying, "Atlan gonna cheese the cut Johan, stick a hat the tikonach, which kanach to the art yesterha on the cook, ya ak kwan, ye chief go has ani, kadane aya, has good za an, chalk, aka kadane ye tin, ya ye chief go has the katki, wasa hatu ya ke to what haya kadane ye jagach to ne yak, ya nadayin, cow the go, cook the, like cook the go, he knew there was sago at. Tagtihin awe chwaach, kaw da gwyhin yach da gati I tuwu. Ye awe ach tuwasagu ya yidat, kone ye jagach tu ne, ach tuwasagu ka ye te tu ye ti, a gashil si dain, ye gach tu glach ya ha ye jine, ya ha de chan kisani hasu kagi yes yach, a joy ach tuwasagu, tilla an ka kasachantin ye jagach tu ne, chal da kat yuhan. And so, there's a couple things that I would do is there's certain places around here like Ḳeiḳóokʼ. I always grab that one because it means like a water that runs itself clear. And it runs into this bigger river called Wuchituhuhin. So I would stand up and say I'm thankful that we're gathered here on the lands of the Tóokʼ people. Oh, I would name them. I didn't name them. I'd say Wuchkitan. And I name the opposite first. Even if there's big fights over who was here first, right? I would say Wushkitan. And then I'd say Yichtetan. So you name usually your opposites first, and then you name your others. And if you're not from there, and even if you are from there, never argue about who was there first or whose land it was. I think that's just really painful. But I would say Kedain Haswitza Anyag, Kohas. Your ancestors did a wonderful job making a village here. Wudzaan, that's how you say that. And then I don't know, just kind of talk about like on the strength of their wisdom and work, we're able to gather like we are today and do our work. I was thinking about this river called Ḳeiḳóokʼ, and I once heard someone say, let your spirit be like water that has settled clear. So it's gone to this calm state. And I want peace to be inside of you. And then we'll be able to work. We'll be able to easily obtain what we need to do. And we'll work with love and kindness for the benefit of our little grandchildren and just stuff like that. And it's like, so it's, because the land acknowledgement is great, but that's really born out of like, do you guys see us? Like, we're here. Do you see that we're here and we've been here? And it's a wonderful step. But if like you're using Tlingit, like say something. And that, for me, that comes back to my interactions with Nora. She would always challenge us. She'd be like, if you're gonna get up there, you better say something. And like, you want to give a speech in front of Nora Downhauer? Woo! Yeah, that was, but she was so good. She had a high expectations. She did. And you know, if you knew her, you probably heard her sometimes say, "Oh, you don't know that?" And you would go home and cry later. But you know, like it wasn't always like the super gentle, like learning environment. And same with like her uncle, like I was sitting in a building over here and he said something to me in Tlingit. I was like, Ḥeiḳóokʼ. He said, Ḥeiḳóokʼ, Heshidaya Kushiske. I was like, huh? He goes, do you know? Do you not know? Or do you not understand? Because you better learn the difference between those two. Because what if I said, who's your mother? And you're like, I don't know. And you need to say, I don't understand. I was like, okay. And I took out a notebook. He's like, don't write it down. You got to remember. You know, he was like, and he was a big dude. And he was like, kind of, it was a little bit of a harsh lesson, you know. But the big difference was then at that same meeting, he got up and he talked, and he was a great Tlingit speaker. And then he said, my nephew's going to talk to you. And then he'd invite me, he'd call me up, right? Because that told me he had faith in me, right? And so some of the things that's missing today is you get the harshness, but you don't get the praise, and you don't get the let me show you how proud I am of you. Like that element sometimes is missing. And so I generally don't try to teach people with the harsh trait. I just think, I was like, okay, you know, that's okay. There was another person over here who just yelled at so many people. Yeah, and we just ask questions like, "Do you think you know more than me?" And then his next thing you know, he's yelling. But like, you know, our roads get us there. So I went through the tough road, so you folks would have the easy path. I hope. I mean, there's no easy way, but anyways, it changed. Thanks for bearing with me today. It was a bit of a bumpy start, but sometimes how it goes. I do think we'll stay in Haa Tuwunáagu Yís. We'll probably get through all of these, and then we'll probably pick a couple others to just maybe read aloud. And so what I would suggest is over the weekend, pick one of these speeches that we've listened to, and I want you to master it. I'm not asking you to memorize it, to recite it, but I'm saying, like, if someone came up to you and said, hey, I want to ask you about this speech, I want you to be like, I'm ready, ask me. But that means like circle things that you're not sure about, find things that you'd like to talk about because you think they're great parts of the speech, and then pick something else. So there's like 3 main sections to this. So pick something else so we listen to Natla, Kichnáalx. We're going to do all of Because We Cherish You. And then pick one other thing that you would like to read for us. And you don't have to memorize it. You're just going to read it. And we're not asking you to perform like that person, but just to honor the things that they shared with us. Any questions before we go?
One other thing, as in another thing from Haa Tuwunáagu Yís, not any Tlingit thing we want to read.
Yes, from one of the first 2 sections of Haa Tuwunáagu Yís. Yes, thank you for that clarification.
Got it.
There's a speech by speech by Jenny Llynad. There's speeches by Austin Hammond. There's speeches by Thomas Young. And so just pick one that you want to read out loud for us.
Okay.
And we'll share what you picked. And so if we have 2 people who picked the same one, I might have you pick another one.
Sorry, I'm confused now.
Okay.
We go through one that we heard tonight and understand it, and then something earlier and read it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So pick one of these speeches and like just give it a really close read. Circle anything you don't understand. Circle anything that you want to sort of talk about a little bit because you think it's a really cool part of it. That's part 1. And part 2, is pick another speech that we haven't looked at yet, and you're going to read it to us. And if there's little tiny shorties, come on. This little 5-line speech, come on.
Okay.
Okay. Je gooi gewoon Johan, precies klein. Je wordt graag steam.
Cheers.
Cheese.